Welcome to the Guiding Brands podcast with your host and chief guide, Karen Vick. This is a podcast for service-based small businesses who want to get a handle on their marketing so they can attract and gain new customers.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of the things if I were creating by the way, I'm going to bring up a term that in the audience, there's somebody out there that isn't familiar with this term. It's a sales page. Can you define the sales page for them?
Yeah, for sure. So let me back up before I define sales page. I want to define landing page. So
Okay.
any
Yes.
page on your site can be called a landing page because people land on it. So this can get confusing when you're out there sourcing solutions for stuff and people are like, I can build you a landing page. So sometimes landing page and sales page are used interchangeably. A landing page is any page you land on. A sales page in our world usually is a page that's focused on selling one product. Generally, that's like a lot of my clients, it would be an online course or their coaching service or a group program. A lot of times these are high ticket things that they're selling. So you might be a service provider that has a lot of different services, but you have this one signature program that you've put together that has courses and it has a group component and there's coaching and it's like this whole big thing. And it's like, maybe $2,000 and up in pricing. So that kind of thing is what you would build a sales page for. And the purpose of that sales page is to sell that one thing and keep people focused on that one thing. You don't want them distracted and going elsewhere. So like one of the tricks of sales pages is usually you leave your normal website header and footer off because you don't even want them to be distracted by the other pages on your site. I still like to link back to someone's website in the footer, just very small, in case someone lands on your sales page who doesn't know anything about you and they want to learn more before purchasing. Yes. But the page is completely focused top to bottom on this one offer and telling you the story and the narrative of how this offer is going to, transform you in some way and giving you the ways to move forward with purchasing.
Okay. All right. So then what exactly, I know that there's a formula. Well, we shouldn't say a formula because not everything isn't set in stone. It's not all set in stone, but there's a typical pattern or key parts that make up a sales page. Can you share some of that with us? What are some of the things that we should be including in a sales page?
Yeah, I love how you described that too. That's a nuance that not everybody understands. So that, like these things can all be changed, but there are certain, like you said, patterns that we see people use again and again because they work. So you're going to be off on a good foot if you follow this to start. And so I've broken it down into basically 3 parts. And some of those parts have multiple sections in it that could be moved around the page, but you always want to make sure that your sales page has these 3 parts. And I call it my bot stack.
Okay.
Because to get back to robots, BOT, just to remind me that, so B stands for benefit, O stands for offer, and T stands for trust. And that's kind of the order of the page too. So you want to start at the top of the page with the benefits. You got your hook at the very top of the page to get them interested enough to keep reading. They should land there. That's like the most powerful part of your sales page is the headline at the top of the page. So I usually save that for last, right at last. So that they land there and they're like, oh, this was built just for me. This is like solving my exact problem. Like, how did she read my mind? And so you have like maybe a few sections at the top that are talking through the benefits of this thing that you're selling that is going to transform the life of the customer from the difficult thing that they're going through right now into this like dreamy future state of that transformation. So you're showing them what could be possible for them if they go through this opportunity. And then as you continue down the page, you get into the offer. So you've sort of identified their problems and what life could be like with this solution. And then you talk about the solution. You're like, oh, introducing my solution for all of this. This is the offer. So in that section, you're also talking about the benefits of your offer. I'll say that also includes benefits, which is, before you get into the details of like what's in the box of like, oh, it includes this many calls and there's a Facebook group and whatever. Like you want to really make sure they understand the feeling and like what's the after going to
so
be
it's like an expectation. You're setting the expectation.
You're painting the picture for them. And so while you're explaining what it includes, you're saying, so that you have this thing, we'll give you this so that this happens. And then you're like, and specifically it includes all of these items, check, Facebook group, coaching, whatever, and how long it is. Pricing. Some people don't want to put pricing. I'm a fan of putting pricing. You don't want to give them, also, this is a side tip, like don't put too many pricing choices. Sometimes people will put like 3 tiers and then all 3 tiers have like a pay in full and a payment plan. So instead of like 3 options, now you have 6 options, and it's just too much. Like if at all possible, I say, if you can, give them like a yes or no, like, do you want this? Yes. Or do you not want this? And then they click. And then when they get to the cart, then maybe there's some choices there about like payment plans or
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So you don't want to give them too much to think about. So you get through the offer section. Maybe you're listing out all the things included and you're putting like amounts on those. You're like, this value of this is this, and this. Some people will say like, includes $10,000 worth of value, and it's only going to be $19.95 today. So that can be helpful in the offer section. And then trust, that's one that tends to be sprinkled throughout the page. So even though I'm listing it last and a lot of it is at the bottom of the page, you want to kind of sprinkle it around. So, because trust includes testimonials, and I like to see those higher on the page as well. Testimonials, screenshots from people saying nice things to you over DM or on social media, and things like your bio, where you're talking about your experience, why you are the right person to teach this to them. So they're building trust in you because you've been through the same experience and same transformation, or you went to school for this, or you have 30 years experience doing this. So that plays into the trust. Awards, exactly. Awards, published books, things like that. And then some people will have some sort of a guarantee. So that also helps with the trust, like some kind of money back guarantee. Not everybody wants to do that. And then like the legal stuff too at the bottom of the page also helps with the trust, like your privacy policy and things like that. And, and there's another section, which I guess falls into the trust category as well, but it tends to be at the bottom of the page, which is FAQs. So FAQs is a great spot to drop the things where you're like, I didn't know where else to put this.
Right. Or
and it also,
questions.
Yes, common questions. I also encourage people to repeat some of the things that they said, like the main points from the upper parts of the page in their FAQs, because some people won't read your sales page and they'll just go down and read the FAQs. So that's a good spot for that. Oh, and there's one other section, sorry, I completely forgot about, which is there's just so much. It can be long. Don't make it too long, but it can be long. So another section that some people don't use, which I think is really powerful to use, is the who it's for and who it's not for. So just like a side-by-side 2-column thing. So that they understand. And this isn't a place where you're making them feel bad. You're not like, oh, it's not for you if you're lazy and don't want to do any work. You're not like insulting them.
Right.
It would be more like,
say it's best suited for. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Or, you want to make people aware if it's like a really intense timeline and they need to spend 5 hours a day on it, that it's like, it's not for you if you don't have this much time available right now.
Right.
Come back later when you have more time. And that's a really, really helpful section too for
helps with
attracting the right people.
Yeah, helps with trust, definitely, because now you're not just taking this person's money and then it turns out to be you know no good for them. So okay. One other tool that we use for selling, our products or service and communicating with our clients, our potential clients, existing clients, is email, and that's where copywriting is very effective as well. Um, so I I mean, we all have seen them. We get emails that are like an epistle. It's like so long, and if you're on a phone, it takes forever for you to get through it. Do you have any effective um, um, ways or that you would suggest that let me start over. Maybe share with us what are some of the things that you shouldn't do when you let's just do
Mm-hmm.
that. What are some of the things that you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't do when creating email marketing campaigns, whether you're selling a product or you're staying in touch with your audience or you're introducing yourself for the first time to somebody who signs up for your emails. What are some of the things
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you shouldn't forget why they joined the list in the first place. So,
mm,
like, whatever you promised that this list was going to be about, in your welcome sequence, if you have a welcome sequence, like, stick with that. And if you're going to change it, let them know. Because then they,
mm-hmm.
like, hey, this, if you're completely switching gears and changing directions, that, I mean, they'll let you know by stopping reading, but you can
Right.
let them know if you're gonna switch gears. So just remember what you said you were gonna do and kind of stick with that. That also builds the trust. And if you've written like a launch sequence, so say you're launching that group program that you have your sales page for, and you've written a launch sequence for it, I think I'm totally okay. And this is really a personal preference of for how many emails you send. I'm okay with sending lots of emails and like
Mm-hmm.
one email a day for a week. So I know some other people that send 10 emails a day during their
Oh dear God.
their launch period.
Yeah, I've experienced
um,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I think the key there is don't forget to give the people a way to opt out of that and still stay on your email list. Otherwise, you could lose a subscriber completely who wants to
Mm-hmm.
stay on your email list but just doesn't want to be barraged by that one offer right now. Like it's not time for
Good
them.
point.
So
Good
you
point.
definitely want to have that, like, you want to opt out of this but stay on my email list, click here, like toward at the top, so they don't scroll to the bottom and just hit your unsubscribe. So I think those are some
Good
important
tips.
things to avoid.
Good
But
tips.
for length, I wanted to mention, I don't think there's a wrong way for length of your emails. I personally love a short email, and when I was writing daily emails, mine were like a paragraph long, right? Or they're like a
Mm-hmm.
4-minute read or 2-minute read.
Right.
And I had a lot of people in my audience that thanked me for that. They're like, "I love this is great."
Yes.
And I was sending
Yes.
them daily, and they would just collect
I'm
them
one of
and
them.
then read them all on a Saturday. Yeah.
Right.
And that's what fit me and my personality. So I liked doing that. And that meant that I would continue doing that. Someone
Mm-hmm.
else might be like someone that loves to tell a story. And in their case, they might write only once a month. And maybe their ideal client would love that. So like
Mm-hmm.
know what you like to do, because if you don't like to do it, you're gonna stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure that aligns with the kind of clients that you want. Like, to go back to what you said earlier, knowing what your audience wants.
Yeah.
Like maybe you are I'm like a everyday email person and I write them short, but you find out that your audience doesn't want emails every day, but they still like them short. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
might change how I do things, like, if I have that
Mm-hmm.
information. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that I don't, yeah, I think that just be aware of what you like to do so you don't quit doing it. And if that aligns with what they want, then
Yeah.
you're
Don't make
good.
assumptions about your audience, and what they would like
Mm-hmm.
and not like. And one thing that you said, your word that kept coming up was the word sequence. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, my audience is made up of listeners who aren't savvy, aren't familiar with marketing terms, and so on. Can you define a email marketing sequence
Mm-hmm.
to the audience? And the most basic one I know of is a welcome sequence. So can you describe
Mm-hmm.
that to them, please?
Yeah, so a sequence is just a set of emails, like 5 email. You could have a 2 email sequence, a 5 email sequence, a 10 email sequence. So it's you've thought out the like story arc of these 5 or 10 emails and have written them out. I would suggest batching those. So like in the case of the welcome sequence that you were talking about, like I think every business owner would greatly benefit from having a welcome sequence and a newsletter. And the newsletter is like something they write every week, just off the cuff, maybe, probably not planned in advance. So I wouldn't call that a sequence. That's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's evergreen. It always like
Right.
lives on. But when someone first enters your email list, you want to like welcome them in, like you'd welcome them into your house and let them
Right.
know who you are, what to expect. This is where, like I said earlier, don't forget what you told them the emails were going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
In your first email, you're like, I'm generally cover these 5 topics. And then they know what to expect. And oh, I send them once a week. Okay, then they know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And letting them get to know you a little bit, knowing what you have to offer. So you can often make sales right away from these first few emails that they get. And it's also an opportunity for you to let them know other places that you have like spoken, like if you've gone on other people's podcasts, or you have a YouTube channel, or you're on Instagram, like invite them to the other places so they can really,
Mm-hmm.
really dig into your world. It's also an opportunity for you to ask them to reply back and tell you some things about
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So this just like really gets them warmed up to your list. Right. And it's generally just like what the email sequence that I write, the welcome sequence, is 5 emails long, sent every day for a week. And then after that, on the last one, you're like, okay, now you're going to go into the regular newsletter cadence. So I'll see you, weekly. I'm always here. You just hit reply, and you got buttons linking back to your website, and
Right.
And then they just move along. But that discrete sequence is over. But you know that every single person that got on your list went through that. And so that they understand who you are and what you sell.
And just to also share this with the audience, these sequences are usually automated, so the email marketing platform that you're using will actually help you with setting these emails up to be sent when you're sleeping. If someone subscribes, you don't want to have to be sitting there sending your emails, every day, for trying to remember, okay, this person signed up for my email 3 days ago, and this person signed up 5 days ago, and which email they should get. So the email marketing platforms will actually automate this, where you set up your emails and tell it what cadence you want them to be sent in, and they'll actually send them. Excuse me.
It's the best thing ever.
Excuse me. Okay. So, all right. So, what, if anything, from what we just talked about in terms of conversion? Here we go. Excuse me.
It's okay. I need a drink too.
That's why we know, people, that this is real. This isn't a AI doing this.
We all got to clear our throats over here.
After a while of talking, I usually end up with a dry throat.
I do too.
It's okay. So yes, so you are today's guide, and at the end of this segment, what I'd like for you to do is to share that one thing that you want people to take away.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like what we were just talking about, there's a side tip I think I kind of mentioned in passing, and that like for your email sequences, if you want to write a sequence, batching can really help you. Meaning like you sit down, and even with your newsletter, like sit down and say, I want to write 10 emails about such and such, and I'm going to go ahead and write them all now, and I'm going to schedule them to go out. And then you don't have to think about that for potentially 10 weeks. So it can really help with the overwhelm if you're feeling worried about keeping up, especially for the newsletter, because generally most people with newsletters, they're writing them that week. So they're like, Sunday rolls around and they're like, oh, I better write the newsletter going out on Monday or Tuesday. And then sometimes you're like, Sundays start to feel like, oh God, what am I going to write about this
Right.
week? So if you sit down and you plan out a good
Mm.
6-10 weeks of, 6 to 10 emails, which is going to go out weekly, it's going to cover you for 6 to 10 weeks in one sitting. It sounds heavy to do that, but it's so much better because then you can just schedule them, they're done, and then give yourself, a week ahead to write the next batch.
Yeah,
And so even
especially
though those are our daily or our weekly newsletters and not like a launch, you've already thought about it. You don't have to think about it on the
Mhm.
spot.
Especially because you're not going to be writing epistles, people.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but
You
it
don't
wouldn't
have
be
to.
advised. And it depends again, obviously, on your business, who your audience is and things like that. But yeah, I like the idea of batching. It's very helpful. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thanks for that. And so, just a few more questions around, you know, how to actually keep this going. How can you maintain your brand's voice throughout your copywriting? Is there are there things that people should avoid, or what can they actually do to fix what they already have right now? You talked about reading out loud. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I may read this thing and it kind of doesn't sound like me. What do I do? Do I
Mm-hmm.
run it through AI? Do I,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what do I do? Any suggestions?
Yeah. So some people will have something called a brand voice guide, which is I've helped some people put that together. So if you've analyzed your voice and you've made note of like how you sound, you start to put together a little document for yourself of like, what are common phrases that I say? Do I have fun catchphrases? What words do I use over and over again? What words am I like, I never use that word. That's offensive. Or like you can put that on your list. Like, don't use this word. And what do my ideal clients want? What are they frustrated with? What are the solutions are they looking for? Like document all of that. How you would describe to them what they need in your words and create this document. And then that way you or someone on your team, if you hire somebody to help you out, like a virtual assistant or whoever,
Mhm.
um, everybody's on board with how your brand should sound. They understand the values behind the business and the goals and the things we say and the things we don't say. And then you or this person can go and be like, hey, let's look at the website and make sure that we're on track. Are we making these mistakes in here? Like I've had a couple people who in their brand voice guide, they're like, I never say the word honest, or it's not like, well, honestly, blah, blah, blah. Cause they're
Mm,
like that, like I would have just been honest from the beginning. So, and they
right.
might notice that they've actually said honest a couple times on their website for whatever reason. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't say that. Or they've changed how they speak about themselves. Like your brand voice guide might include an elevator pitch, and your people are always revising that like short couple sentences that you would tell someone in an elevator if they're like, oh, what do you do? Like
Right.
people are always revising that. So you might document that, and then you go to the website and you realize that how you've described what you do and who you are is 5 years old and no longer applies. So just like kind of taking stock, like do an audit of your site and be
Hmm.
like, here's the areas where it's not a fit. And then you can go through and edit. And you can totally do that with AI. Like you could give AI your website copy and your brand voice guide or whatever things you've jotted down about your voice or examples of copy that you've written that you feel like are really sound right,
Hmm. Hmm.
and be like, hey, ChatGPT or whoever, look at these examples and look at my website and tell me where it's not connected. It's not like
Mm.
congruent. And what things could I fix? And it can do the analysis for you and point out those spots. And then you can say, oh, yeah, that's right. There's a spot. There's a spot. And you can make pretty quick work of making those changes.
There you go. Yeah, see, AI, the elephant in the room, came back into our conversation. But it's a tool. It's a useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
If used well, it can help you with so many things, including your copywriting. So
Mm-hmm.
if a small business owner can make one big copy improvement each quarter, what do you think they should focus on? What would give them the best results um, for their marketing?
Yeah, I think that's one where the answer is it depends. Like, because everybody is going to have a different weak spot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're someone who, maybe your website sounds pretty good. You're sending out regular emails, but you find yourself tripping up on sales calls, or when people interview you, you're not sure how to speak about the things. Like you feel like there's some depth you haven't explored yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've found, and this is why I started doing daily emails. I don't do them anymore, but I did them for, I don't know, 6 months or 8 months.
Wow.
I
Wow.
wrote daily emails because, and I learned this from Jonathan Stark.
Hmm.
He used to
I
have
know
a
him.
podcast called
Mhm.
The Business of Authority. It's shut down now, but amazing resource. He touts the daily email thing, and it's because when you write, and it doesn't have to be in an email, but when you write daily about your topic, when every day there's pressure to come up with like another tidbit, you start to go, instead of being like an inch deep and a mile wide on your topic, you start going a mile deep and an
Mm.
inch wide. And you'd be surprised the depths of understanding and the nuances that you realize about this thing that is your area of expertise when you have to write about it every single day. And like when I'm writing daily emails and it's like a paragraph long, there's not a lot of pressure on me to make that perfect. I can just make a point about something or tell a story or share a quick
Mhm.
tip. And every day that I did that, I got better and better at my own topic. I realized that there were all these other little edge cases and little layers that I had never realized were there. And it was amazing. Like I thought, oh, I'm going to run out of ideas. I didn't. I wasn't running out of any ideas because every day my mind was like working. I'm thinking of like another thing I could share with someone. And that meant that when I was on a podcast interview or on a sales call or writing copy for my website, I had all these like really deep, rich ideas that I could pull
You
from
can
because I was
share.
talking about them
Yeah.
every day. So I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of that. But you're the area where you do your regular content, like do it somewhere. It doesn't have to be in a daily email. Maybe you're someone that loves to do reels or
Mhm.
video content or something, like anywhere where you can continue talking about your thing and answering questions about your thing, your topic, is going to help you develop that thought leadership, um, and
Mhm.
expertise and make you like the resource. And it's going to help you speak about it even better
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
forward.
And I think also what's important too is to listen to your audience. You know, who's reading who's reading your blogs, who's reading your social media posts. What are they saying? The interactions they have. Don't get hung up too much on the likes and so on. Maybe because you may be getting a lot of views, but they're not giving you feedback in that way. But over time, you will know what resonates,
Hmm.
and you can make decisions around that. So okay,
Yeah.
and then in the world of SEO, that's one way that you can test. Whether or not this is working. If your blog post is actually bringing traffic to your website, or you're seeing that people are actually landing on one page, ending up on that page of the website and staying there for a while. Your analytics can tell you all of these things, and then making sales from that. So those are some of the things that you can, some of the ways in which you can actually determine whether or not all of this is working for you. Okay,
Hmm.
so Sarah, copywriting isn't everybody's strength. um, you know, um, I couldn't write when I want to, but it's a daunting task for me to sit. Honestly, I look at the screen for hours. No matter what it is I'm doing. If I want to write something, it doesn't come easy for me, but I'll write eventually. Um, do you have any last tips that you can share with the audience on just how to actually get started? Before I tell them you need to talk to a professional. If they want to
Hmm.
do this themselves, what are some of the things that you would suggest that they do to help them get started with, revising their marketing copy?
Yeah, I would say notice when you read other people's copy and it's really good. And like, you
Mm,
can keep a swipe file of those things, not so you can copy them, but so you can be like, oh, what was it about that I love? Like, if somebody sends you emails and you could not resist that subject line, like,
mm,
like make note of that. So notice the good copy that you see around you. And then as you're sitting down to write, and I get this way too, even though I love writing, when it's time for me to write, I'm like, oh, it's going to be so tiring, because it's just deep, deep work, you just sit,
right.
and I end up there for like 3, 4 hours straight, like writing. And so I'm always ahead of time having trouble thinking about doing that because I know it's going to be draining. Even though when I'm in the middle, I don't notice. So a couple things that help is and this was a technique I learned in school as a child. And my mom was an English teacher, by the way. So
Oh,
I
okay.
also learned
Okay.
from her. But is make yourself an outline of what you're going to write, like just the topic, the order, like the
Hmm.
quick high level of what it's going to be. Like, how will I introduce this thing? And what are the like 3 points I'm going to make about it, or 10 points? And what will I say at the end? Like, if you make your outline, that'll get like the creative feelings flowing, and that helps a lot. And then also this is what works for me. I tell myself I'm just going to write for 15 minutes, and then
Hmm.
that turns into 3 hours plus every single time. Like, well,
Wow.
I'm just going to
Wow.
organize my thoughts. Like, I'm going to make that outline. I'm going to gather all my notes. I'm going to put them in this document. And then I'm there and I'm like, well, I might as well just write that one piece first. And then I'm like, well, I'll just write the second one. And I have time. I'll just write 10 more. And then
Good for
next thing you
you.
know, it's
Wow.
done.
Okay, I'm gonna try that. I've never
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never done that, but you make some good points there. I think I'll do that. I think, just saying you don't have to write the book, in one
Hmm.
sitting, just first set of thoughts, your outline and your first set of thoughts. Cool. That's
Yeah.
a
And,
really
and
good
remember
suggestion.
too, remember too that it's like your crummy first draft. Like,
Yes.
what you're sitting down to write is not the final piece. This is going to be a messy, ugly mess. Like, just to
Yeah.
tell yourself that, and you'll be surprised it's not that messy and ugly, but that you can refine it later. Just get the words out on paper first and then
And
come
and
back.
and that reminds me of a tip someone gave me before. When you're writing, just write. Don't try
Mm.
to correct yourself as you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yep.
write. That's where the messiness comes in. And this person also suggested that you can now, especially with these tools that transcribe, if you're wanting to write and it's difficult for you, I think I'm going to take my own advice here. um, just speak into, you can use Google Voice inside of Google Docs. You can use your notes app on your phone and just talk into the device. Just say whatever it is that you want to put out there, and then you can go back and read it, and make
Yeah.
and refine,
Yep.
rather than trying to struggle to come up with the that first sentence alone. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and your subject line will come from whatever you come up with just the same. So thank you
Perfect
so
advice.
much.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Sarah, I this was enlightening, and I hope the audience actually comes away with a better understanding of the differences between copywriting and content creation.
Hmm.
And that's one thing. And also just the nuances of writing for marketing and sales. And you've done that in such a beautiful way and just simple. And I love that, all that you've shared. And I just thank you so much for your time. Thank you for, just using your knowledge in the way that you do, and just being willing to share with others, and if you want to be a part of Sarah's world, and learn more from her about copywriting and web design and things like that, you know you can follow Sarah online. So Sarah, would you mind sharing, all the places that they can find you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say my Instagram is where I like to hang out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you can DM me there, and that's at Sarah Design Agency. And everything, like, you could go back really far. I have years worth of content sitting in there from like the many iterations of my
Mm-hmm.
business. So you can
Yes.
find some good nuggets in there. And then my website is sarahdesign.com. That's Sarah with an H. And I have just recently, like we talked about pivots, pivoted to this new
Mm-hmm.
offer for coaches. So I've pulled back on custom copywriting. I'm not offering custom copywriting right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to check out my site, it's at sarahdesign.com, and you can take a cruise through there. And if you're a coach, maybe that's something that you
Wonderful.
need. But yeah, I'd
Wonderful.
love to connect.
Can you share a little bit more about this new offer that you have, so the audience will know and,
Yeah, for sure. So it's for new coaches. It's a brand new type of website solution that has marketing and other strategies built right in, so that if you're a coach, maybe either you don't have a website, or you just had like the single page brochure website and you're like, it's time to do better. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sales, I want to get calls, and you're interested in having a full-fledged Squarespace website built entirely for you, almost all of the copy written for you, guided. I have tons of like cool bonuses inside this offer. Plus it has a whole strategy around it to get, like, the point of the site is to book calls, and then you make the
Mm-hmm.
sales on the calls, and everything on the site points people back to booking a call. It's a really, really great system. I'm super excited about it. If you head to my website, you can check it out, and there's more information on there about how all that works. And yeah, it's still early days, and I've been having a lot of sales calls about it, and it's going awesome, and I'm just really
Wonderful.
excited.
Wonderful. Wow. Happy for you. Happy for you.
Thank
Happy that
you.
this is turning out well. And again, thank you so much for joining me today. And just looking forward to seeing the episodes published and people responding to them. And I know that you dropped so much knowledge here today that, we're going to walk away with something valuable. So thank you again, Sarah. And I look forward to possibly having you on the podcast again another time. There's so much that
Yeah.
we can share, so much that we can talk about, and you've been very, very helpful. Thank you again. And
Thanks,
so
Karen.
you're welcome. You're welcome. That's all for this episode of the Guiding Brands podcast. I look forward to sharing with you again next week. So please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Thank you, and bye for now.